Hello. We're so glad that you're here. We're glad to get to share about Hatha Yoga with Manatv International's wonderful audience. We hope you'll benefit from it. My name is Jayadeva, and this is Parvati Savannah, and we're here at the Princeton Yoga Community Center. Today's focus, and we'll be focusing and doing a series talking about Hatha Yoga. So let's first talk about what Hatha Yoga is. Yoga itself means union. Yoga, the union, that's this show that we're doing, participating in. And yoga means union. And this science of yoga brings about the union of our ego-centered individual self with that self of all. And that union, when we come into that, it brings us into a fullness and a bliss, and all sense of separation is gone. We're one with everything and everyone. And so we have compassion in our lives, love in our lives, and peace. Now, that's what yoga does, and there's a lot of different styles, branches of yoga. One branch of yoga, called Raja Yoga, the royal path, and sometimes known as the Ashtanga, the 8 limbs of yoga, includes what's called Hatha Yoga. And that means you're using asanas, body postures, to bring about this accomplishment of coming into the union. And using body postures and breathing practices, pranayama, and working with cleansing practices, the kriyas, you're doing Hatha Yoga. Now, Hatha means sun and moon. Ha is the sun, and Tha is the moon. So I'd like you to take a moment to try something. Right now, as you're watching this, please stretch the arms out in front of you. Grab hold of one wrist with the other hand, and now pull as hard as you can. Stop. Take the same wrist with the same hand, but this time, just pull gently and steadily. And what you notice here is that the arm that you're pulling on is letting go. It's surrendering into this steady effort, and it feels like you just can keep pulling it, and it'll keep getting longer and longer and stretched out beautifully. This is Hatha, what you're doing now. The first thing is strain, but this is Hatha, and you want to do it. Let's do Hatha on the other wrist because it's only fair to the arms. So just gently take and pull, comfortably, steadily. Relax into a steady effort, and you're doing Hatha. In the Hatha Yoga practice where we use our body and put it into postures, all of the yogas to bring about this beautiful union for us. And in the Hatha Yoga, we use our body to accomplish this union. Hatha Yoga. My teacher, Swami Satchidananda, my guru, beloved Gurudev, he came to the West and was instrumental in bringing yoga to the West. And he told us when he came here that we're using Hatha Yoga because Hatha Yoga is yoga's calling card to the West. And certainly most people here in the West think that yoga itself is only Hatha Yoga, only doing body postures. But there are many other approaches. There's an intellectual approach using the mind. That's called Jnana Yoga, the wisdom yoga. And you do self-inquiry. You ask, who am I? Who am I? What's going on? What is all this? And you just stay with that inquiry. You don't stop. Then there's the yoga of action, karma yoga, where you're doing whatever seems to be the right action for you to do in the moment. There's an array of branches of yoga, but we're going to focus in this series on the Hatha Yoga. So all of the yoga, all the Hatha Yoga came about as a way to prepare us so that we could be in a good way to meditate. So the body would be loose and limber and we could sit comfortably, it'd be purified, and our energy would be open to flow more fully. And then it makes it so your meditations are much richer. So the Hatha Yoga was developed to enhance the meditation. And in the Raja Yoga, the royal path, those limbs that are there, including the elements of Hatha Yoga, lead to 3 limbs of meditation. We're not going to talk about that more this time. So right now, because you want to get ready eventually to meditate, it's important that we focus on sitting. And there's several different ways that you can try and work on the body so you can sit comfortably. One thing is what's called the comfortable pose, Sukhasana, and in that you place the feet underneath the knees or thighs, not way back on the thighs, but closer toward the knees. And then you shift a little to clear the sits bones. And you find a comfortable place for the hands, arms, and you lift the chest some, and then just wiggle around so the body's soft but upright, and you'll find you've got a nice way to sit. This is Sukhasana, the comfortable posture. Another way to sit is what's known as the tailor's pose, and many people find this really comfortable. And you have the knees out to the sides, and you place one foot in front and the other foot in front of that with the ankles straight. And you shift around again, clearing the sits bones, and you lift the chest and then wiggle loose and just settle. Let your hands find a comfortable place. And now you're in the tailor's pose. Another pose which many people find comfortable, if their hips are open and their ankles are loose, is the half lotus. Ardha Padmasana, the half lotus posture. And you put one foot up on top of the thigh and the other foot's underneath the thigh. Again, you clear the sits bones and sit tall. Find a place comfortable for your hands. And now you're in the half lotus posture. Another is the full lotus posture. And now you have both feet up on top. And your ankles need to be loose and your hips need to be loose. And that's what you work on to be able to do this posture. But there's magic to the full lotus. There really is. When you put the body into full lotus, it sets up an energetic pattern which your inner psyche recognizes and knows. It has a lot of benefits energetically, but one of the benefits is it creates a pattern that reminds you of the eternal, your eternal self. Your body, when you put it like this, knows it. You've done this in other lifetimes. Not everyone is ready to believe in reincarnation, other lifetimes, but whether you believe in it or not, it's still true. And so the lotus posture connects you like that. Another great thing about sitting cross-legged is when the legs are out like this, energy flows through the legs, just like it flows through the arms and hands and fingers. I mean, if you go like this to yourself even, you can feel it. And someone else does it to you, even with them not touching you, you can feel it because there's energy that flows through your limbs and through your fingers, through your feet. So you have energy flowing out through the feet. And we work with that in Hatha Yoga a good bit. But when you cross the legs and bring them up, it stops the outward flow and the energy moves inward and gets centered. And again, this is beautiful for your meditation. It's also beautiful moving the energy up through the central energy channel, and that helps to bring you to a state of consciousness where you're much more subtly aware of things. You start to notice things that you weren't noticing before. So it's a beautiful thing. You're not wasting energy, you're saving energy, you're directing it inward, and it's a beautiful way to sit. Okay. There's another way to sit that's very useful for people, and you can use it for meditation, and you can use it for your breathing practices, pranayama, and this is called the lightning bolt pose, or the pelvic pose, and you kneel and sit back on the feet. And you sit upright, and many people just love this, and it really works beautifully for you. It's a wonderful posture. You can use it, as I said, you can use it a lot. So here's sitting with the feet together and sitting right on the heels. And many people find that they like to put the toes on top and move the heels out to the side to make kind of a little saddle and settle into that. That's really nice. A lot of people enjoy that. There's some people with really loose hips and ankles. There really are. And you can sit in between the feet very comfortably. In fact, you'll often find if you're around young kids who are loose and you ask them to sit like this, they immediately sit like this, in between the feet, and it's just totally comfortable for them. But as your body stiffens up because you haven't been doing these things with it, it's not so loose for you. Now, speaking of the body being a little stiff, many people find that it's very useful to place a blanket or a little cushion, not too big, and you put it right behind the knees and sit back. This lifts you up, but it takes the pressure off the knees, which is uncomfortable for some people. Also takes pressure off the feet somewhat, and it works very nicely. Many, many people find if they do this, it takes the pressure off the knees for them, and it's really comfortable. And this is a way that many people can sit for their meditation that they didn't realize that's so comfortable for them. The next thing we're going to do is when you're settling to start a hatha yoga practice, you want to get the body loose. Yes, knowing how to sit is nice, but now you want to do some things to loosen this body up. And there's a lot of things you can do. One thing you might do is pull the heels, put the feet, the soles of the feet together and pull the heels in toward the center, toward the groin. And again, clear the sits bones and hold on to the feet or the ankles. If it's hard to reach your feet, you can hold the ankles and rock again. And then lift the chest up nice and high. And instead of pushing the knees out and down, focus on the pelvis and soften the pelvis and allow the hips to release and float down. As you breathe, the chest is lifting, the knees are floating down as the hips are softening, the pelvis is releasing. You'll find if you do this that yes, there is a little bit of effort, that you relax into that gentle, comfortable effort of pressing the knees out and down, and you'll be surprised that if you're doing this and breathing with it, you'll feel the hips releasing more and more. Someone looking at you may not notice your knees moving closer to the floor, but you feel the release happening and continuing to happen. And if you do it regularly, you'll be shocked that your knees will go closer and closer and closer as the hips open up more and more. Also, again, you have the feet centered and you're sitting up, so you get a nice movement of energy as well. So one of the things you can do here is you can rock the knees up and down a little. We call this a butterfly movement, and it helps to loosen the hips up some too. Many people find this useful for a while, and you can do this, but then you stop and again settle into the stillness of just letting the hips release and the knees float out and down some as the chest is lifting. You can stretch the arms in front and press out through the heels of the hands and spread the fingers wide. And then pull the elbows back and the hands back as you spread the chest open. Pull the elbows back, hands back. Spread the chest open. So the shoulder blades come toward one another and down and back some. And then lengthen the neck and don't pull the head back, but let it relax back gently. Now, as you're doing this, breathe through the nostrils, and you find you want to breathe a little more deeply than normal. This will expand the chest. It'll open the air passageway nicely, opens the heart for you. Has a lot of things that you'll feel taking place. And then relax that and shake the arms loose. Shake them out. Move the wrists, the fingers. And you were just moving the neck, so move the head around some. When you're moving the head, don't go back. You can move the chin in front going around, but you don't want to go back and crunch the neck. But moving the chin around in circles in front, you'll loosen the neck and shoulders beautifully. You want to go both directions, not just one. Almost always, you want to do things one way and the other. I've been sitting with my legs like this the whole time, but when I'm doing a Hatha yoga practice, I make a point to change which foot's on top and which foot's on the bottom regularly throughout the practice, so I get that. But when I'm sitting, I'm just sitting. Now, you can also move the shoulder blades in big circles, and that really feels good and loosens things up nicely, one direction, then the other. And you can put the hands on the knees and do circles again, loosening up the hip region, the pelvis some. You go one direction for a while and then the other. There's another nice stretch, and this is to reach your, we did this earlier about Hatha, but now we're going to do it as a stretch. So reach the arms up into the sky and interlock the fingers and turn the palms up. Press up through the hands and pull the shoulders and arms back some. Breathe with it. Nice deep breaths. So almost always we put our hands in the same way. Note, please turn the palms back down. Now switch your hands so the other little finger, move all the fingers so the other little finger's on the outside, and then turn the palms up again. You'll be surprised when you do this how different it feels, because we normally have one hemisphere of the brain that we hang out with most of the time, and this changes which hemisphere of the brain, so you get to notice that and enhance that, and you want to use both hemispheres of the brain. So make sure you shift and do both sides. You don't have to do it every time shifting, but you want to shift from time to time so that you use both sides. Okay. Another nice stretch for us would be to go ahead and place one hand down beside you and stretch the other arm up high, and then lengthen out. You're not trying to get too far over, you're trying to lengthen the stretch side. So you push the hand and hip away from one another and breathe into it. You'll find when I'm saying breathe into it, that as you breathe when you're stretching, the breath will totally enhance what you're doing. So you want to be conscious of your breathing and take advantage of this powerful tool of using the breath. Okay, come on up, let's do the other side. We're going to lose her in a minute. It's just so nice to do this stuff that she's just going to just be gone. It's really hard to stop this when you get into it because it feels really good. So you stretch up. Okay, come on out. One more important loosening up thing that we want to be sure to include is go ahead and now take the right hand behind you and point the fingers away from the spine, and take the left hand to the right thigh, close to the knee but not on it. Sit very tall, start to breathe deeply, and now work the twist up from the base of the spine, pull the shoulder around, turn the chin, look over the spine, And use your breathing. As you inhale, get taller. Fill up, expand. As you exhale, allow yourself to twist more. Hatha. You'll find you relax into the effort. Each exhalation, you're going to twist a little more. It's really beautiful. Okay, we need to do the other side now. So put the left hand behind you and the right hand on the left thigh, close to the knee. Work the twist up from the base of the spine, and then pull the shoulder around. Look around. Use the breathing. Even the eyes can bring the attention to look around to complete the twisting. If you haven't been doing this, once you start doing this, you're going to find you'll do it all day long. And that's one of the things we want to mention about this series. Most people do Hatha Yoga in a yoga class. But let me ask you, you've probably done math in a math class, but is that when you really use math? You do go home and get workbooks and do math problems at home? No. You learned how to do math in class, and now you use it at the supermarket. You use it all the time in all sorts of settings. You use your maths that you learned. Same thing with Hatha Yoga. I was just saying, you've got this twist that you've learned. You're going to see how it feels, and you're going to find yourself doing it all the time. You can do it while you're sitting in a chair, while you're waiting for something. You twist and it releases the spine and moves the energy centered. You'll find that you can do almost all these stretches, and you should enjoy them and use them throughout the day, all the time. And the asanas, we're going to go through asanas, and you can go to a class and have a series of asanas like we have here, a series of asanas that we use along with the breath, along with the what's called the mudras, the energy configurations, and the bandhas, locking energy in place to make energy work more effectively. We use all of that in Hatha Yoga. Hari Om Tat Sat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Blessings.